Welcome to Sparking Success with Aaron Opalewski. Aaron brings you conversations that spark innovation, cultivate leadership skills, and pave the way for your business success. In each episode, we delve into the dynamic world of business and leadership, exploring strategies, insights, and success stories that fuel your professional journey.
Hi, everyone. We're back for part 2 with Dante Nino. Love our first part of our conversation. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yep.
I love this business and what we do. And I think one of the things that started, this relationship that we're building is, social media, yes, but it's the content that's produced and the thought and the acumen behind it. And I don't remember who followed who or whatever, but I've just enjoyed watching some of the stuff you post in general, but specifically where I see you get into the numbers and I can tell that you want to learn it, you understand it, you have learned it, and you're implementing it in the business. I'm like, man, I love that because that's what's really unlocked some of our growth as well. Starting out, the foundations are core values, your culture, your mission, all that's really important. You got to be capable too, though, and you got to have a strategy, and you got to really be a student of what we do. And I see that in you, so I'm pumped for this.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's get into it. We got our notes here, and I'd really like to start with a unique question that I can ask you that haven't been able to ask any of our other guests in the recruiting space yet. Because we haven't brought anyone on yet that's crossed the $3 million threshold in gross profit, at least to my knowledge. And I know that any of the other people we brought on, that you've built out, a bigger team than those people. And I know what the answers are for me on this stuff, but I'm really interested to learn, from you on this and hear your experience. So, one, congratulations to crossing over that $3 million marker, because there is a stark difference between starting from 0 to 1 and from going from 1 to 3. You have to start to operate the business differently. And it might have just flew right past, but I heard it in some of our conversation in regards to the mindset and decision making. But when I'm asking you more specifically, when you guys crossed that $1 million marker, what, in your opinion, were the key components then to, whether you looked at it this way at the time or not, what are the things that drove you past the $3 million marker?
I think once we hit over that 1 million mark, we're about 5 people.
Okay.
It was our second year. And we were still contributors to the billing. We're doing everything, accounting, running the whole business, business development, recruiting. But we're also training 3 recruiters to be able to bill as well too, and we're pretty successful then. But after we hit over that 2 million ballpark, we got stuck for about a year. I would say a year, 18 months.
Yeah,
and we kept having turnover, and we couldn't just go past that. So me and my business partner kind of took a step back from the business, which it impacted our revenue as well too, because we're bringing in 300 to 400K a year each, and we took a hit, but we're okay with it because we know it's going to be a short-term hit, so we could bring in more people. So what we did there is we started hiring more people, but we also moved people that were good billers into more lead roles and more management roles. And we were able to build out 2 recruiting managers, one for the West Coast, one for the East Coast. Okay. And training goes through them, any little questions. Then after that, me and Simon are focused on coaching and development with every single person, looking at data, looking at everything else. And after that, we were able to hit past the 3 million ballpark. And now I know we're talking about it's like 0 to 1 million, 1 million to 3 million. And now the 3 million to 10 million is going to be a lot different, which we're kind of going through right now. We're making some executive hires now to be able to achieve that. So it's something that we're trying to figure out, and I'm really excited for.
So we're gonna come back to that, going to the 10 million marker. So what I'm hearing is, in the choice and decision to go after making the investment, to go after 3 million, there's definitely that delayed gratification that we talked about in part 1 in that. And we found this to be true too. Like, we went to dinner with Fletcher last night, and when we started Spark initially, we were able to add some other good people that became, great, producers themselves, right? But it started out that Fletcher and I were managing 95% of the book.
Yeah.
And then we had one situation where I was able to move some of my, book over quickly, which worked well up front. It didn't work out long term, which was on me. We thought that was probably an example of us thinking we were smarter than we were. And it worked until it didn't. And I don't have any regrets about that. We learned a lot. And I think so did that person. Like, we still talk. Like, it's been a good thing when you snapshot 10 years out. But we went through periods, and we had to actually kind of go back and forth on this a little bit, where, we jumped out too early. And then we had to jump back in. And then we tried again. And we did it with a little bit less of a light switch approach and more like kind of chipped at it. And over a period of time, we're able to get, out of it. But even as we did, there was these points where it slowed down growth. And I know for us that was tough, I'm sure. Sounds like you guys mentally prepared yourselves, but that doesn't necessarily make it easier.
It doesn't, because as an owner, you always want to keep going. You want to double the size of your company. You want to double in revenue. And when you see that, it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys made that decision, and sounds like you stayed the course on that, and you mentally prepared for it and stuck with it. You added, were those recruiting managers for East Coast and West Coast? Was that people that were already there that organically kind of grew within the company?
Yeah. They were doing very well, and we knew that they eventually wanted to go into management roles, more leadership roles. So
important.
Since the beginning, we hired them. We let them know, like, hey, this is what we want, but we need to achieve this goal first. Then at this amount of headcount, then we're going to be able to put you in those situations. And once we did, we delivered on our promises as well too, and they were happy. So they were happy to contribute as well too.
So everything you just said there is huge. Starts with, one thing I want to advise, people on, or, just give you some, you don't have to follow it. Maybe you see it differently, but what we found is just because someone is a great biller doesn't make them a good leader. But what I heard you do, instead of just assuming that, oh, this person's a good biller, they'll teach it to other people, sounds like you guys had some conversations with these people about what their career goals were, and decided that they had some of the attributes to lead others. And so that's a little nuanced thing. Like, you didn't just pluck them and put them in the role because they did $500,000 in billings. Like, there was a acumen and a want to go into that type of role. So check mark on that. Then I look at the situation, and you said that you were stepping out at the same time, but you weren't stepping out, and like, you guys are still providing development to people within that. So it's like they're getting a couple layers of development within that. So I think all that is important parts of, like, okay, we make this jump, but we're not just stepping out and say, here you go. We're not just putting anyone in a role. We're laying some of the groundwork and communicating well, and making sure we have people in the right seats.
Yeah.
Is that done perfectly? Probably not. There's probably some mistakes in that, but that's a good framework to go about that. So maybe people won't pay attention to that, but that's what. That's really a great way to go about it, and clearly it worked because you crossed that level.
Yeah. And as an owner too, you have to be able to trust your people and give them a little bit more on the not financially, more on the business side. On, like, hey, this is what my day to day, and this is what I look at, so we could help improve recruiters. So it's not like, hey, go manage people. It's like, no, come with me. This is how I do it. This is how we operate. This is how I, LinkedIn works, as Indeed works, as a recruiter works with every single recruiter. This is how we track everything. And we started slowly phasing out of that. And it wasn't just one thing to another. But even after we phased out, there were still problems that happened, things that came up. People don't know how to manage. They don't go into school to learn how to manage. You kind of have to learn it. So there was different things that we tried to implement to help them become better managers.
Sure. We talked about, like, it's like, okay, that sounds like executable. Like, oh, that sounds easy enough. There's a lot that goes into that. And then you got the dynamics of like the part where you are phasing out of accounts. And I think it's just a natural thing if you're a great service provider to a customer that they want to continue to work with you, and you're the owner, so they feel like they can go to you and get things done as they should. Like they're the customer, they can do what they want, but like communicating and setting things up and making a transition strategy that, you know, you're gonna have the customers that are still calling and stuff, but how do you kind of like accept that that's going to be part of the reality, but then also continue to chip at that? And, you know, the last thing that I would recommend is you just don't pick up your customers' calls like that. Like, I mean, any customer that like still to this day, but like those, we went through the same thing, and that was hard, and probably, you know, it was like a tennis match at times. Like we think we're making progress on that, something bad goes on. Who are they? And things like that's still happen. I think it's we want to be in front of our customers. So if anything, it gets to the other side where it's like, man, I got to evaluate, am I not ever getting in front of the customers? But that's a tough thing to do. But if you stick with it and are intentional, you get on the other side of that. Like now you're really kind of developing other people to really take that and start to scale it out a little bit more. So that's really good. Not easy. I think from any, it's not easy on the client. It's not easy to communicate that. Like there's a nuance in how you communicate that. And I'm still here, but you know, we're gonna start to make this transition. So those are key things. But like, man, it's not just like you can do it. It's like said it like, I just emailed them and that was it. Like, you're probably gonna lose the client.
No, so it takes time. And I mean, even now, I still have clients that contact me directly.
That's right.
And you know, you're right. You're always gonna pick up that call. You're always gonna answer that customer, and I mean, it's just part of it.
As soon as we finish here, which I'm not doing this like every day, but as soon as we finish today, I'm heading out to a customer site. I'm gonna do a walk, and the person I'm gonna see, I haven't seen him in person probably. Shoot, it's probably been 6-7 years since it's crazy to think it's been that long.
Yeah.
But you know, I'd still go do customer visits.
Yeah.
But you know, we have a team that support. It's not like we haven't talked to that person in 6-7 years. Like we have a team talking with them all the time.
Yeah.
So, okay. You know, one of the things we're talking about last night, we got into it, you know, so I've learned a little bit more, but I found it interesting is you were talking about like, hey, a key thing to our success has been, you know, we've been able to take people that have some industry, you know, recruiting experience, whether that's specific to construction or other areas, but that are doing around like I'm sure it varies, but you use the general number, like 250 in invoicing, and be able to move them, you know, higher up the chain, and that you've been able to increase your speed to profitability on making investments and hires. Share with us on that. I think that's really interesting. I think that's part of what you were talking about in the top billers thing that you're doing, but you're also eating your own dog food with that in your guys' agency. So tell us more about that.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I mean, it comes back to the branding as well too, and marketing, where some of the newer hires that we've made, or probably people that have been following us for some time, found value from the things that I put out, our company puts out, you know, tips and, you know, templates or whatever it is, just for free, just to, you know, educate people. And, you know, some of the conversations I have, like, hey, you said you found value and you've learned, you know, how would you feel coming into our company? And, you know, we coach you, we mentor you, and we want to help you get those goals. And those conversations are not just, okay, yeah, I'll move. You know, those good people are committed to their company, so they take time. Like I told you, one of our most recent hires, it took me 1.5 years to poach her. Finally came in, and she, you know, before it used to take us 120 to 150 days to make a profit out of someone, because there's a learning curve, there's training, getting new clients and everything else. And now we've been able to bring on recruiters that are experienced and have a strong book of business as well too. And we're able to provide more value as far as coaching, mentoring, tools, technology, all the above. And we've been seeing now either, from 45 to 90 days. So really expedite that now that we're able to get new agreements and make those placements and make them profitable within those days. And now we evaluate every single person depending what they want to do as far as billing wise.
Okay.
And we sit down with everyone. Everyone's different as well too, and all their sectors are different. So we just have to evaluate each one by average placement fee, client size, and so on.
Okay. So are you having that conversation with them up front, like in the interview process?
Yeah. I'm like, what are your goals? Why are you looking to achieve this, and so on? What did you do last year? How come you want to hit this goal, and so on? What do you feel you're missing from your current employer? If you could tell me one good thing you like, one good thing you dislike about your current employer, we try to figure out what
Yeah.
they're looking for.
I
And
asked those same questions, but I asked a lot of those same things, but you threw in one or two things. I'll go back and re-listen 'cause it's like I like that. Like, and
Yeah.
again, like I think I was talking to Chris, who was with us here yesterday. It's like I'm always learning
Yeah.
on these too, so
hmm
that's good. And the key thing there is that you're doing it. You're setting you're kind of setting the tone. You're setting the standard. You're communicating clearly, and you're getting some of this stuff figured out on the front end. Because I found I think one of the mistakes we did early on, when we started to hire aggressively,
hmm
is we didn't really do that, and I don't know why, because we still had pretty good metrics back then, and we talked about them all the time and all that
hmm
stuff. But we kind of I don't know why even we really, and I didn't look at it at the time like we avoided it, but I feel
hmm
like now like we kind of just avoided it, why did we do that?
It's things that we learn over the times, and
Yeah,
sometimes I look back, I'm like, why were we doing this way? And it just happens.
yeah. Well, I hope that we're still finding stuff in 5 years that we say about like that now, right? Because
Yeah.
that means we're growing.
Oh, yeah.
That's like an evident physical, like, man, that's like outside of the numbers and stuff, even though we're
Mhm.
talking about being specific about the numbers. But it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, like this is a tangible area where it's
Mhm.
like, I don't even know why I would have done that. But it's like, okay, well, I'm getting better,
Yeah. Yeah.
So okay. Awesome. So you get someone in, it sounds like you guys are targeting people or having some success at a faster rate, with people that have some acumen and industry experience and a track record of success. Um, I like the question about you, or you're asking them about what they like and what they don't like, but then you drive down more specifically on, what tools are you using, what are you not, what do you like some of that stuff.
Mhm.
Um, you feel like that's a big proponent of like what you guys have put together and being able to create a system that helps
Mhm.
people generate more output.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, there's some people that are good billers, and they don't have all the tools and technology, but they have they have the skill set to be really good recruiters. And Simon and I are very innovative, and we look at technology. We're always thinking about the next big thing. What can we do to make our recruiters' lives easier?
Yeah,
Because if their life's
agreed.
easier, they're going to do better. They're going to be more successful, and they're going to want to stay with us as well too.
Hmm.
So we always look at that too. So every single time we interview someone, it's like, what has helped you? What has been successful for you?
Good question.
And
Yeah,
if we find something, then we try to look into our company. That's how we found Zoom Info.
yeah.
That's how we found some other tools that we didn't know about too. And
I think that's. I mean, we're trying. We do. Um, all kinds of different scenarios on where we're trying to like learn about different things. I think out of everything that we've added, we've executed best with Zoom Info.
mhm,
Now we have a lot of other stuff, and we'll like try a seed or two, like
mhm,
instead of like
yeah,
buying it for everybody, because you also got different personality types, and we're doing all different. We have
mhm,
these companies that are doing different types of
yeah,
staffing, and there's definitely different. It's it's very it's the same culture, but within that, like there are like different personality
yeah,
characteristics, and like in the IT recruiter or account recruiting manager compared to maybe someone doing light industrial staffing. And there's a lot more similarities than there are differences, but there
yeah,
are some
yeah,
nuances to that.
yeah,
So there may be different tools that fit better in different areas. So we'll try and beta test things out. And we found like MetaView's one. I don't know if you guys have tried that. It's been good. We like it. We have only like 2 or 3 people using the tool. We tried to implement it with about 10, and we just weren't getting like a use out of it. And this isn't a knock on the tool. I actually like it. We've had a harder time with our people that aren't more at their desk with that because they don't have, at least at this point, a good like cell phone integration. And like, so our account recruiting managers that are on the road, or, you know, if people are, you know, going back and forth, like the more of that, like they don't end up using it, you know? So, that's a hint, you know, for them. If they're listening, they should be, but if they could figure that out, like we'd probably be able to use more seats because we would have we would get a better use out of them. But we're continually like trying stuff like that. Zoom's where we've hit the bullseye the best. More room for improvement. But outside of Zoom Info, what's your guys' favorite one?
Well, I realized too, we're all direct placement right now. And some of the best people that we've gotten come from smaller to mid-sized companies, you know, 0 to 10 employees, 10 to 50 employees. And those companies don't do the full investment, which I've seen, where a lot of people that come in only use LinkedIn Recruiter Lite. I'm like, well, we use LinkedIn Recruiter. It's like, and we give you a full seat. They share accounts with Zoom Info. It's like, no, we give you your own Zoom Info. And
that's cool.
And it's just everything's like we're going to make your life a lot easier here. And not only that, we're going to coach you and mentor you and make sure that you're hitting your goals. So we've been able to pull people like that and be more successful here with us. But I would say Zoom Info, LinkedIn Recruiter, ZipRecruiter, Indeed. One of the tools that has helped us, especially going fully remote back in 2022, Ring Central, where we're able to track everyone's calls, how much time they've been spending on the phones, voice recordings as well too. And we're able to go through every single voice recording. If a recruiter is doing something right, we want to know how. Well, what are you doing? So we study those. We go back to the data. How many calls are they making? How much handle time are they having? And we use that to train our employees as well too.
Yeah, I like that. So we were using that, but not well. Like the rings, because you have to do that. That's the call through the computer, right? That's how that works?
So it's an app on the computer, and you also have an app on the phone too.
You download the app on the phone. So we're using that. I don't know. There might be different. We had like 2 different things, but clearly we didn't execute it on it that well because I don't know enough about it. And like if like you would just know we were executing on it better, but I would know more about it. But we just made a shift within Zoom Info and Teams on that. We're going to be using some functions in there to have more recordings, specifically with our Teams meetings too. Where like we'll have we can record stuff now, but you like run out of room pretty quick. So just a different capability within that. So Fletcher's just talking to me about it as we were walking in.
Oh, really?
last night. So I'm excited to see how that, pans out for us. But I'm just always interested, and we find the same thing. We're talking to someone right now, and I want to use, discretion on that, like, because who knows if we'll make the hire or not. Like, looking good, but we'll see. And we're talking about like what tools they use, and it's just like blows I'm like, man, like, and I kind of feel this way, but I think like in some instances where we organically grow people, they get spoiled because we have so many and I'm like thinking about where we came from when we started like a chair with no padding and a plastic desk. And it's like, dude, we had none of this stuff. And now we have so much. It's, we hire so much like organically and build people. That's one of the things I like about adding some people that do have a little experience somewhere else, because I think they can come in and provide some fresh perspective for everyone. That's like, whoa, like we have a lot of tools here that are at our disposal. And so that's been kind of a good thing. So this person we're talking to, it's like, they basically don't have any tools. I think they might have a Recruiter Lite, or I think that it's like a premium seat or something like that. Like, I don't, but we hear it a lot. Like they don't have enough investment in using these
Mm-hmm.
things, and they're pushing people to do whatever numbers they
Yep.
hear on the internet or
Mm-hmm.
wherever they're getting them from.
Yep.
And it's like, well, like there's some good things about getting scrappy
Yeah.
and creative on placements, but like that should be a tool on the belt. You gotta
Yeah.
have some other tools on
Yeah.
the belt too.
Yeah.
I'm not mad about it, right?
Yeah.
Because like that, like if we're probably gonna beat them on the
Mhm.
rolls. I'm sure
Yeah.
you guys see that in your
Yeah.
industry too. But it's like wow. So I
Yeah.
like that sometimes when we bring someone in and they're
Mhm.
like telling other people like, oh, like they're the most excited about it. It's the other person that's like all they ever know, and they're kind of
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, this is no, this isn't normal. We got way more stuff
Yeah.
here. Like, yeah, I'm like, keep saying that.
Yeah.
like that helps out. So
It does. Yeah.
okay. So let's talk about, we were talking about, hey, on this, let's get more data centric. So data driven decisions. Become, I really think, for us in our businesses since like 2020, it's really the reason why we're potentially flirting with growing, 4 times the size that we were at that point. We'd already done some good things at that point, but like what has allowed us, and again, we have a long way to go, a lot to learn. I'm learning right now. Um, but what's allowed us to have that kind of growth over a 4-year period, specifically in the last 2 years where the industry is not growing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not the only thing, right? Like the culture and like
Mm-hmm.
that's a vital. If you don't have that,
Yeah.
forget it. But making decisions off of data instead of feelings
Mm-hmm.
and the right data has really made me feel like I understand what I'm doing more at like you kind of get to certain points and you're like, man, like what I'm not just recruiting myself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just this setup, it's expanding like and we're stuck. What do I do? And it's really helped me with that. It's just like kind of cleared up some of the okay, this is where we're falling short. This is what we got to do.
Mm-hmm.
So what are those key data points for you?
Yeah. I used to think a lot of people gave you like KPIs. Make sure you're hitting your KPIs. KPIs are you must hit your KPIs. But KPIs it's just like a metric.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like once you look into the data, it gives you a lot more. And for us, it's been very crucial, especially going as a fully remote company, because when you're in an
Absolutely.
office, you hear everyone. You're able to talk to them. Hey, let's go over your call. Let's jump into the office. It's a lot different. And you can see what everyone else is doing because you're in the office. But when you're working remotely, it's very crucial because you don't know what people are doing.
All you have is your data.
All you have
Yeah.
is your data. Yeah.
I mean, you can talk to people and you can do stuff, but
Yeah.
you need that data to point you into the direction of
Yeah.
what you need to be talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for us, it's very simple. I mean, if you're connecting with 50 people a week and you're having 50 client contacts a week, 5 submissions a week. Submissions means resumes out to companies as well
Yep.
too, with 3 interviews a week. It's shown historically that you're able to make 1 placement a month.
Yep.
Now, if you're below that, you're simply not doing enough work.
Yep.
You need to pick up the phone, you need to get after it. If you're doing a lot of that and the results are not there, we could look into your quality of jobs. We could look into your quality of clients. And every client, every job, we go through, we have a tiering system where we tier every single job depending on, how long the job's been open, how competitive is the role as well too. Human capital, is there enough people in that city and that area to be able to recruit from, salaries and so on. It's very unique, and we grade every single job. And those data points are very important for us because we're able to track people and tell them this is what we need to improve on, this is what we need to do better.
Yeah. We're trying to work on our grading of the jobs right now. What do you guys do for that specifically?
So we have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 jobs.
Yeah, so do we.
Yeah.
But
So tier 1 is it has to meet like 4 different requirements. One is human capital, make sure that there's enough people in the city that are this job is fillable for. We can be recruiting out of, I don't know, Wisconsin for an engineer with specific certifications. So there's like, hey, like there's not many people here
yeah.
that we could recruit. It's like,
Yep.
is this gonna, if it doesn't meet that requirement, it automatically goes into a tier 2. The second requirement could be salary. Are they competitive with their salary?
Yep.
And if that's good, then we're good there. How many other agencies are working on it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we've got to know that. And how long has the job been open as well too? If it's for us, if it's more than 60 days, it automatically goes into a tier 2 role. But if it's been open under 60 days, then it meets all the other requirements, it's a tier 1 role for us. So we're very specific on that.
Yeah. So each one of those things for you guys, it's not like one will move it to it, like, but each one's a ding that moves it a tier back, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And that helps too, because if you say, hey, I'm working on 5 tier 1 roles right now, like we've seen that we're able to fill, 60, 70% of those. But if you're saying, hey, I have 5 tier 1 roles, and you're not filling anyone, like, no, you don't have 5 tier 1 roles. We got to look into the job and see what makes it a tier 1. And we're very dialed in on that. And we make sure that our recruiters are always having tier 1, tier 2 roles as well too.
That's interesting. And this is like I was saying, I mean, we've done this for a long time. It's an area as we've continued to grow that we do struggle with because we have, um, all these different sectors and styles of recruiting, and we're better set up now with those segmented out. But there's still a lot of inner communication, and some like part of the culture is that there is still like you just met Jake, and Jake is one of our earlier homegrown. He's our first intern.
Yeah.
And he's extremely versatile because at one point, like everyone worked everything, and for some people, like he's an example, like you produce the best output. But what we found, similar to like different crevice to our conversation earlier, is like that not everyone thrives in that environment. In fact, most don't. They do better kind of focusing into an area and locking in and becoming more of an industry expert in that and building pipelines. And so within our management of that, like there's just a lot going on there. So we still really basically go off qualified or unqualified. But we've messed around with like a numbered, ranking system. Just a couple different things. And then we have our volume staffing and non-volume staffing. And, we now have it set up where it's different groups that do each. But when they were doing both, some of the people that were doing both, the behaviors of volume staffing are different than like that's like you could still do that ranking system, but there's just some things about the qualifications that they like can, once they placed it, they know it a little faster. And some of those bad habits drag in, and that's just like one of like the more sectors and styles of recruiting, the more complexity. And that's just an example of us, like we're still working on that to this day. But we're tinkering with like 2 or 3 different options we've made some investments into our ATS, and we think we're going to be able to spit out better dashboards out of this thing, because we're trying to get us to use everything out of the ATS. It's no one's fault but my own that we still run parts of this in silos outside of it. And some of that's been good, but we're really trying to draw all that stuff back in so we can run quicker dashboard reports of it across the whole portfolio, because it's real. It takes too much time to go through that, and then it's not easy for people. Like we want to make things easier for people. Well, if it's not as easy, you're not going to have as good of execution or implementation. So I'm hopeful that we will land the plane on whatever we're kind of evolving that to by 1/1. But that just peaks. I love hearing about what people are doing, because it's just an area that we're working on right now.
I feel like it's a lot more difficult, especially going into different sectors and different roles. I mean, even for us, it changes because we have some recruiters that are working on 50, 60, 70K salary jobs, where other recruiters are working on 150 to 200K jobs. So the metrics are totally different there.
There you go.
And it's that and we're still in the AEC industry. I mean, you guys are doing 5, 6 other sectors, different positions,
Correct.
contract.
That's right.
So that's definitely a challenge.
So you got the same stuff, and then you got that going on in multi sectors. And then we are, one of the things we've always done this, but we were really integrated that the whole portfolio works together.
Yeah.
And that's been some of our biggest successes over the last, specifically, we've been doing it the last couple years, but that's been intentional the last year. Like EJ's, I'm not looking at him at the moment, but he's probably shaking his head because like I'm just like almost every update that we give, which we do them weekly, we're talking about teamwork and wins or like we're highlighting this stuff because it's really where we have multiple people in or hey, you know what, my power base, you know, I got this. My uncle has a IT hiring manager that they know, and they know I do staffing, so they reach out to me. Well, in the past, what would happen with that is we either wouldn't take the call, or we would just get diluted and not like we weren't experts in that. Well, now we have an expert in that. That person needs to say, hey, like I'm going to set you up with our expert in
Yeah.
that. And so the team's done really good. That's just probably a bad example, but
Yeah.
really good at doing that. But there's just so many more layers and levels to like, man, like we could really run with that and provide great value to clients and service to people. But we gotta like have our ear to the ground on it and
Yeah.
work together. So, but yeah, we're trying to do that, and then like that's a big component of it now. Like, well, since we're doing all that together, it makes this thing even a little bit more complex. And so they run their own board, so it's a little bit fragmented that way, but it's still the same ATS. And we're just trying to figure all that out. So we got about 40 days to do it. Yeah, a little more by the time this airs, about 40 days.
Yeah.
So we're working on it.
Yeah.
So love it. Thanks for sharing. What else? Is there any like is that it? Or like you said a key word, you said simple. And simple and clear wins every time. The complexity comes with more people.
Yeah.
So if that's it, I don't want to make you overstate it, but is there any other key data points that you guys are looking at?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's pretty much it, and it's going to change. We've brought in better hires. I mean, I feel like year after year we're dialed in on people who we hire, and now we've been seeing that right now people are making 2 hires a month plus.
Yeah,
Exactly. We have some people making 8 hires a quarter, where before it was 4 a quarter was good.
Yeah.
But now our new good is 8 hires. So now it's all right. Well, if people are doing that and they're competing, well, we need to keep up, and we need to up everything because people are competing that way, and it's changed. So it's kind of nice. So now I feel like we're going to be dialing in towards the end of the year as well too, and kind of figure out what our numbers and metrics should be for people going into 2025.
Yeah, I love it. It's just kind of like you're organically talking about how the standard is raising, which is that's what you want. You want that compound effect going on within the company as everyone's learning, growing, their acumens. They're like when you do the right things, like that allows the vehicle to move that way.
And it's bringing good people that are motivated and are going to change the kind of the culture within the company too, which is good. And some people will stay behind because we've had that in the past where they were comfortable with billing 200 to 300, but 200 to 300 is not good for us anymore. We want 500 to 700. And even before, I mean, I think on Tuesday we had a recruiter that had 7 interviews in one day. Typically 3 interviews a week is good for us. But now we're having recruiters having 7 interviews a day.
Yeah.
It's like, that's incredible. Like we would have been like, whoa, 2 years ago, like that's insane. But now it's like that's the norm now. Like can we keep bringing people like this and up everything? Our standards are higher now.
Yeah, I love that. Have you found? So I think you just answered my question because it sounds like they're probably doing more volume, more submittals than 5. But when you were on a 3 interview, 5 submittals, one start a week. I mean, if you average that throughout the year, you had a 20% fill ratio. I was wondering if you've seen your fill ratio improve, and now people are going 2 for 5 on those hires, or if it's more like they're going 2 for 10, you're holding that 20% fill ratio, you're just getting more output.
So that comes back to the sector that they're working on as well too.
I agree.
Yeah, because it can't all be the same.
That's what we found too. So we're still working on our actual fill ratio because our rec quality in the system on our volume area specifically will have people leave the recs open and they just never close them and it messes up. It brings our fill ratio lower than it is. We can still see through submittals our conversion ratio, which is our overall, like for every submittal, we know the percentage. Like if we make a submittal, this person has 100 submittals. If they have 40 starts, they have a 40% conversion ratio, which in a lot of areas would be pretty good. It's light industrial volume stepping, that's not good. But so to my point, you have these different sectors, and so we have it broken down by, sector or business unit. We have it broken down by company because the companies do different styles of recruiting. And then we have we're talent, we have multiple business units, so we have a total for talent. Then we have so here's all the companies, and we have a total for all of the portfolio together, and like, okay, this is what we're performing at from a conversion ratio standpoint. And it's pretty wild to see that. It's taken us a long time to get that, like similar to, like, we don't have that figured out on the recs that are coming in. We have that figured out well, and it's been very helpful to have that, to like, I can look at an incoming project and like we're running year-to-date data, and now, we have historical data too, so we can also see how we're improving with this. But, if light industrial comes in and they get 100 orders, hey, we want to place 100 people. Okay, if we can put 100 submittals on that, I know we're going to fill 55 of them, or we should, because that's our current conversion ratio. It's about 55%. Now I look at this. This is one of my reports I look at every week. It's a key data metric for us. But the reason I look at it, I just gave the example. Like, if something comes through, I'm going to want to know what's our output of submittals, and if we reach 65 hires out of that, I know, like, man, like, what's going on at this client? Like, we're cooking, we're elevating our standard. Like, can we? What's going on here? Like, can we talk with the people? Can we, let's learn everything we can about this, because we're beating, our conversion ratio right now, and this is going to raise it. Inversely, if we come in and we take a big swing at that, it doesn't have to be this intense, but okay, we do 100 submittals and we only get 20 people started. Well, now, like, man, that's way, like, what's the number one thing in recruiting that is a danger to us being successful? Once we have good people, it's where we allocate our time. What other industry do you potentially do 80, 90% of the work and only get paid 20, 30% of the time? It's in our industry, until you set up some of your searches and structures and look at some of this data and understand it. And maybe that's how you get to setting searches up better, so that you can outpace the industry. But there's a tremendous amount of that. So the recruiters that's why I think organic business and new areas, new markets, anything like new client, like a lot of that conversion ratio or fill rate, they have to be built up. And so when it's not, like, you're not, it takes, that's part of why it can take time. To your point, even with what you're doing, well, we get someone and they either bring a book or they bring all the knowledge or whatever, but like, we're able to speed up these, like, even if we're not looking at it, we're speeding this up because it's not as new, for them as it may be someone who's never made a recruiting call before. So,
and we're able to study it. We're able to kind of get our findings and learnings from what we've been doing. So, that's what our role is very crucial, and data is very important. It always comes back to the data there.
Okay. Well, I'm interested to see what you guys can continue to do with that, because, like, I just geek out on this stuff. I could talk about it all day. Let's go back. So you talked about crossing 3 million. And you had said that you guys are working on putting the strategies together to go attack crossing 10. What's your current thoughts on that, on what you have to do like, hey, this brought us here,
Mhm.
but what do we have to do differently,
Mhm.
or no, we just need to keep doing the same things.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been stuck at a head count of 13 people. We usually hired 5 people in the last quarter. We had our second biggest quarter, so that was good. New billing records as well too. And now,
Congrats.
yeah, thank you. And now we feel like we know the formula, we know what we need to do, but we've never prioritized sales. And we've always been good with quality because we always want to keep our quality.
Yeah.
We've always been good with training people and making sure that they're successful. And now we just brought in 5 people. We're going to be hiring. We're looking to double our size of the company next year. And now we feel like we have the infrastructure here to make that happen.
Yeah.
But with that, we need to make a strong push towards sales because we've never prioritized sales. So now we're looking at bringing in a VP of sales that could kind of help us organize, how we're doing different things
Yeah.
and push sales here the next coming year because we have the training program, we have people that could train, we have managers, and now we feel we're very comfortable pushing that so we could get past that, hopefully 10 million here in the next through 2 to 3 years or so.
Yeah, that's been, and I mean, we'll see. Like, so for us to, we were stuck in between like 5 and 6 for multiple years,
Mm-hmm.
and what I found that really, I mean, part of what we said, part of, we were kind of chugging along on this, and then like we added in some of these more data metrics, and it got
Mm-hmm.
clearer and clearer for us. But between having key data sets that we could look at and have less emotion, like, not that you take all the emotion out of it or the
Mm-hmm.
human dynamic out of it, but you don't want to make decisions in an emotional state.
Mm-hmm.
I want to look at stuff. I'm not never going to always make perfect decisions, but I want to have my information in front of me to help me make what I feel like is the
Mm-hmm.
best decision, at least at this point in my acumen.
Yeah.
And so when we started to behave more that way compared to how
Mm-hmm.
we felt at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy too. Like, you don't do that. You learn that early as a recruiter, that you got to kind of be like even keel, because
Mm-hmm.
you deal with so much ups and downs and rejection. And then I think when it came to making decisions in the business where we
Mm-hmm.
had 30, people, well, here's one, we were running, revenue was much higher, but it's not important because it's all that, if it's payroll, it's payroll. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're not keeping any of that.
Yeah.
So we're running around, 6 million in gross profit, and we had up to 51 people. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand, like, we were aggressive and we were growing, like we were growing, and I
Mm-hmm.
had a different outlook. I'm like, if we're over this number on the bottom line, like,
Mm-hmm.
let's keep growing.
Yeah.
And that was good, but there was some, and it worked out for us fine. It
Mm-hmm.
actually did help us grow, but it, the more we grew, the more that became a reckless strategy needed to mature.
Mm-hmm.
It was great because that was a product of us being willing to invest in the business rather than just ring in the register
Mm-hmm.
more. So wasn't all bad,
Mm-hmm.
but as like that's growing out with people, we're adding people, things are naturally getting more complex,
Mm-hmm.
and we're diluting our gross profit per person.
Yep.
So we cross, 6, million in gross profit, and this is pre-COVID. And then, we do this expansion. We're struggling with some of that, and then, COVID hits, and we go back under that. And for a period of time, we didn't lay anyone off, but we didn't hire anybody.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't hire anyone the back half of 2019, and then we weren't hiring for most of 2020 because we
Yeah.
were just figuring that out, and we flipped our model a little bit. Well, by 21, we had done more gross profit than we had ever done,
Mm-hmm.
and we did it with, I think we had 35 people on the team.
Mm.
So we had 16 less people,
Yeah.
which are parts of that were mentally
Yeah.
tough, because like it's a physical representation
Yeah.
if you're growing or not. But
Mm-hmm.
like, what helped me with that is knowing that I'm like, we're better at this now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and we were good at this before, but we didn't understand how to look
Yep.
at the numbers and have it point us in the direction of how we needed to develop people, or where we needed to work, or like how much, you know, what really happened on some of that is we had a couple people that were pulling so much of that weight. And as some of those programs ended and shifted on us a little bit, it's like, and they weren't doing these huge numbers, for a period of time. Then you got all these people that aren't, doing enough of a number.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, like that's not good. But we weren't looking at it right.
Yeah.
So the data points are big. The other thing is anytime I hired someone, it sounds like you guys are doing a good job of this, but anytime we hired someone to grab the account, to like, oh, we can add $1 million in revenue here, we can do this there. And that was the only thing when we didn't also, when we didn't start with stacking up. We had core values, we had the culture. We were still maturing in this, but we didn't make. I found we talked about it, the gray area in recruiting, and you find that, like, it was same thing internally.
Yeah.
It's finding there's little things, and it's like, yeah, like we'll let that slide, or like, and that you don't say that, but it just happens.
Yeah.
Well, every time we did that, even if it sped us up for a little bit of time, it ultimately really slowed us down. I think it hurt us from taking the steps. That's why we got stuck there. When we chose to take some of those steps back and really focus on getting better at what we do, we, over a period of time, it wasn't right away, but over a period of time that started to pan out. And we really were like, hey, like, look, like we do want people with acumen, and we've added some people similar to you. It's like, man, well, we can't do that though, and disregard the stuff that makes us us.
Yeah.
And when we've done that within year, 2 years, it just hasn't worked out every time. So over a period of a year, 2 years of behaving that way with everything else we were learning, we were able to take those next steps as a team, and super grateful for that. So those are the things that I've seen, between data and then like how we look at like growing the team from where we were to, and it's ultimately what's put us in a spot now where it's like, we're moved far past that point too. And we're up to, I think, 62 people overall on the team. And it's been a big proponent of it. Like, we don't have to necessarily jolt 15 people into this, like, and cut steps. Like, let's just get the right people, and let's make sure we're productive, and the productivity will lead us to be able to make an impact and bring more people on and pay them more money and create a great, culture. We'll be better set up to develop people. Like, we want to move, but it's got to be under the like, this has got to all match.
Yeah. And it's hard as an owner, because just like you said, the headcount's not growing, so you feel like you're not growing, and the revenue and so on. But yeah, it's definitely tough to do that.
Absolutely. So I wanted to like close this out. One, thank you again, man. Dante flew in, and he's here with us in studio, and we're grateful to have him. Wanted to just hear more about your guys' vision. We're talking about it from a number standpoint, but like, what's the big vision?
Yeah, I mean, after being here and seeing the office and seeing what you guys are doing, as something that's been in our kind of we haven't really taken the steps, but we want to hit that 5 million ballpark and introduce the contract side of the business.
Okay, yeah.
And we have a lot of accounts right now that we could. I mean, just like you guys were looking to do the executive side, what's the easiest way to grow that? Go to your current clients and let them know that you're not only a contract business, but you're a full service. And that's something that we could do as well too, because we've had the opportunity to take on clients and do the contract side, but we just haven't, because we want to make sure that we get this right. So I think, once we hit that 5 million ballpark, the next thing is going to be bringing in someone that kind of helps us grow that contract side and get to that 8-figure ballpark. And after that, we'll see. If you asked me 5 years ago, I thought it'd be me and Simon just working along, but things changed even for the better. So I'm pretty excited for the next few years. But just like you, I love the staffing industry. I love building people, building relationships, and I think it's a great 2025 is going to be a great year for everyone.
I agree. I'm feeling, I've been cautiously optimistic, and like we've been chugging along, even though like there's been a lot of, I think, curveballs that we've all had to deal with, like in the business world in general, that definitely impacts hiring. The more uncertainty there is, the less hiring that generally goes on, at least, on the direct side, for sure. And I always try and take an optimist outlook, but I feel really confident about the future. And I feel confident in companies that are, willing to not avoid technology and AI and investing in the tools and their teams and like looking at like everything all encompassing. Like, I feel like those companies that really go at that, even if they're not perfect, but if they're intentional about working at it, are going to flourish. And companies that don't want to do that, or that aren't customer or, team member centric, and thinking about, a couple years out and, what they're going to do to continue to improve and make this a great place, to be, I think they'll continue to struggle. Like even if the market gets better and they do better in pockets, like I think ultimately like those companies will struggle. So, this is why we're doing this podcast. I love having conversations like this. I might ping you a little bit more as we're working on this, our like ranking system. On our end though, man, whatever we can do to help you guys out, within any parts of that process. I love what you said earlier. You guys are targeting people trying to grow a business, start a business, get over the 1 million mark, go after the 3. Like you guys are trying to do things that you've done. That's what I've heard. And I like to do the same thing. Like I can't, hopefully, soon, we will cross the 30 million in gross profit. We got work to do on this, but we'll do that, or over 100 million revenue. I don't really care which comes first because there's good in both things. But like, I'm not out there trying to be a coach to the staffing company that's doing 250 million. Like what business do I have doing that yet? I don't. I haven't learned. Now we do have I'm in some of those groups so that I'm expanding my like vision and like how are we going to get there? And in some of those conversations, they're like, man, how are you guys getting those like how does that work? Like so there is like contributions, but I'm not out there on social cutting videos saying like, oh, let's grow your company to $500 million in staffing, because I'm trying to figure that out too. And so I just love that about what you said about that, because I think there's way too many coaches out there that have no freaking business coaching anybody. And I just think that's awesome, dude. And if there's anything we can help in your guys' journey to crossing 5 or 10 or moving into contract, we're happy to share what we've learned in the process. So.
Vice versa, anything I could help with.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming in. Thanks for joining us on part 2. We'll ask that you please like, share, and subscribe, and have a great day.